Hey guys, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and I am in a hotel room in Kansas City. So I've got just an overview video for you today. Because of time pressures and there's all kinds of things that I just can't get into explaining, I'm going to do an unboxing style video of these, but I will not be doing a review video of either of these knives because I'm already a bit late on these. These were in a hand-around set going around to different reviewers to take a look at. And I've got to get them on to the next guy before I have time to do a full review. So let's start with the G10 version. Bestech knives have two lines of knives. They've got what they call their titanium line, and then they've got their G10 line. I think that's what they're calling them anyways. So this knife, the Starfighter, that we'll look at in a minute, is from their titanium line, and this is the Paladin, or I think Paladin's probably the best name, the best way to pronounce it. I'm never any good at pronouncing all kinds of names. And what we've got is a fine G10 knife, bit of a backspacer right there. And I hope to get some decent still pictures to put in here because I can go outside where there's some good lighting and get some still pictures to insert. But not any close-up stuff. But the detent on this thing is awesome. Very, very well made. And we've got a straight back blade, nice little swedge up here, G10 handle, pocket clip is tip up, bit of a G10 backspacer here, and we've got this two-tone blade. And with so many of their G10 knives, you can get a two-tone blade or you can get an all satin blade. So this little extra black that you see here, or dark gray, you can get it with that just being satin. So that's, I think, a really good touch on something, a small difference that makes a big visual difference. And they're giving the consumer that option, and that's a really good thing on their part. What it does is it makes it, for very little more production cost, very, very little, they're making two different knives. And that's a really good thing. I think you can get them in 3 or 4 colors. The Paladin, most of their knives you can get in 3 or 4 colors. I really, really like this sculpted G10. Hopefully I can get a good close-up picture, or I can find a picture on their website that I can download to show you, because there's a section that's milled out right in here, just below the top here, and then it's an extra little accent right there. And then at the back, it's nothing super special there, nice lanyard hole. It just sort of fills in, and nice chamfer here on the choil, the finger choil. The liner release has got just a nice little jimping on it. I know the lighting in here is terrible. It's a hotel room's just nasty. I really like the fine jimping on the back of the blade right here for the thumb rest. Very, very comfortable. I have found, just since I pulled this thing out, and I did play with it a little bit yesterday, last night when I got it, I'm tempted to put my finger up here because there's a space there and it looks good, and it's tempting to go like that. And yeah, you're going to end up stabbing your finger with this sharp little corner here. Like the sharpener's choil is, you know, done well, and the blade is sharp. I believe this is the factory sharpness. I think a few different people have seen this and reviewed this already, but I doubt that any of them have sharpened it. If I take a look at it, it looks like the factory edge on there. And the way I can tell is if it's not exactly consistent everywhere. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that I believe most of these Chinese companies, and I think most good companies, they actually have a guy or a gal trained to sharpen their blades. They've probably got a few of them. And they do it by hand because they're so good at it. But when you do things by hand, you're never exactly perfect. And see, like on this blade, the degree of grind right here and right here changes ever so slightly. That's before it gets to the apex of this belly. And I can see that it just adjusted a little bit. And on the other side, it's a slight bit different. Not much at all, but just a slight bit different. It's still very sharp on the tip, but I think this is factory edge. Very, very sharp. I like that they don't have a whole lot of their name plastered all over the place. I would have preferred this Paladin to be up here in this dark section, but made just light so it wouldn't stand out so much. Not a big deal. D2 steel on this blade, by the way, and there's their Bestech logo there. And that's all the writing that you get on the knife. Very, very nice. Very comfortable in the hand. Let's see. Yeah, the back grip, that's very comfortable. You know, pinching up grip. I always find it, some knives just don't work with, you know, getting a nice pinch up grip. I always try to get my, not always, I usually try to get my index finger, no, my middle finger into this finger choil right here to get a really good solid grip. These other two back here. Yeah, that works quite well. Feels pretty good. You don't really know, though, until you start doing some hard cutting, and I simply don't have time for that. The screws look very, very well done, and they always are in Bestech. They don't, well, I shouldn't say always, all of them that I've seen. And a little bit of news right here. I have talked with Bestech, with their Chinese office, and they made a deal with me to send me some knives. I had to buy them, but I got a really good discount. I got it at their distributor's price, which is a really good price. So they're sending me, I think, 4 of their G10 versions and 1 of their titanium versions. So let's use that as their segue, as our segue right now, to take a look at this knife. So their titanium version, they tend to ship them in pouches like this. And I like that it says Bestech on the pouch. At least you get to know what brand it is. I don't like pouches that have nothing on them. Sorry for shaking that table. It's just the nature of my setup here. I've actually got a little dinner table here in the hotel room, and if it's got wobbly legs, and I end up shaking the camera. Sorry about that. What was I saying? Oh, some companies that are a little bit cheaper, they just don't have any names in their pouch. And if you're like me, you want to keep the knife in the pouch when you keep it in storage. I don't have very many, so it's not a problem. But if you had like 15 knives and 10 of them were in pouches that didn't have names, it'd be a pain saying, okay, I want to find that knife. And then you got to open, you know, 5 or 6 of them before you find the one you want. Ball bearings. I'll have to check online if this has ball bearings or not. I just don't remember. It feels like it might be. It really, really feels like it will be. But I'll have to double check. This guy definitely has ball bearings. And the screwdriver for this is just a tiny little slot. It looks like you could take a dime and put it in there and turn it. It's not a flat hole. It's like a scooped hole. Like at this angle, so there's the little line. And at this angle, it's scooped. So you put your screwdriver in or your coin, and it has, the hole has got that, you know, sort of scooped angle. So you put something that's sort of rounded in there and turn it. So if you put a flat screwdriver in there, I think you wouldn't be able to get it very deep, and you're going to end up marring the edges of that. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. So if you get one of these knives, you're going to have to be careful if you want to adjust that pivot. The other screws are all Torx. We've got a really cool lanyard hole back here in the back spacer. I always like when they do cool things like that because I don't tend to use lanyards, and this keeps the look nice and clean, and you know, those that want lanyards can still do it. We've got a milled pocket clip, and it feels like it's pretty good, and I did test it in my pocket last night, and it slides in and out very well. On this side, you can see it better because that's the show side. We've got that really neat cutout here, mill out, and then it's got those lines put into it. Hopefully the lighting here is good enough that you can see that. The edges on the back are all rounded over, and it's a nice slow round. It's at least an 1/8 of an inch, that circle there, so it's very, very comfortable in hand. All kinds of various grips. It's a little pointy back here, so the back grip, if you put your thumb over that, that's not the most comfortable, but you can go around. The flipper tab makes a nice choil there, nice protection for your hand, I should say. We've got a high flat grind here. And same kind of thing, we've got the Starfighter name here, and I believe this is made with, you can get the dark on the flats here. And there's a drop point with a swedge, thumb riser. The jimping is much more spaced out on this guy than it is on the G10 model. It's got a tiny little bit of a cutout right there for your thumb, the meat of your thumb to rest in. I find that always to be extra comfortable. It's not really a forward choil kind of knife. You are probably going to cut your finger up there again. So maybe they've got a tendency to do big forward choils. I haven't really paid attention to that. Sharpener's choils, but yeah, I would keep my finger away from there. If I had smaller fingers, I might, do some of that, but I can just see myself, if I do that, I'm going to end up, starting to relax and get used to it, and I'll start cutting into my finger. I can just see myself doing that. We've got a nice lock bar insert because this is titanium, and lockup is very, very good. Perfect for a brand new knife. Solid, no blade play, back and forth, side to side. It's easy to unlock, don't even have to think about it. Yep. See, there you go. Us lefties always have a nasty time, not always, often have a nasty time. I just wanted to open this knife with my left hand, and I found out that I was putting my thumb right on that lock bar, and I was pushing down on it, so I couldn't undo the knife. So if you get one of these, you have to hold it sort of like that. This is awkward with your left hand. To open the knife, you have to have your thumb up and away from that lock bar. Ooh, sorry about the shaky camera. Like I said, this table's just nasty. So if you get one of these, you can get used to it, but you might end up frustrating yourself for a little while putting your hand on there. Now they've got some extra milling out on this titanium on the inside. I can see a lot of milling out there to reduce the weight. I'll put some of the specs on the screen, the specs that are on the manufacturer's website. I don't have time to do all the other measurements. I'm here for my niece's wedding, and I just flew in, and I'm going to be flying out real quick. And I've got to send these knives on over to Kevin Cleary. So if you've not heard of Kevin Cleary's channel, I'll put a link to his channel down below. He's another Canadian knife reviewer, and so I'm going to send these on up to him. Hopefully he gets them. Hopefully they get past CBSA and get to Kevin Cleary so that he can review, the Starfighter and the Paladin. Both are flipper knives. Both are very good looking. I'm not that into the Starfighter as far as my personal tastes, but I can certainly see how it has an appeal. It's a good looking knife. Oh, S35V in stainless steel on the blade here. And this is a first production run. This is number 77 of 100. So some people like to have first production runs. So I really hope this thing doesn't get lost and ends up in somebody's collection eventually instead of in CBSA's hands. Very, very nice. For any Americans, other people watching, CBSA is Canadian Border Services Agency. They've been really hitting Canadians hard with trying to stop us from getting any folding knives, almost any folding knives, into the country. Folding knives are not illegal, not by any stretch of the imagination, but CBSA's interpretation of the law is so twisted that it's becoming next to impossible to get knives in. One of our knife stores is no longer carrying Spyderco knives anymore because they can't get them in anymore. It's just too big a risk. And, there's other knives. And so our own knife stores in Canada are going to start going down, and it's going to be very, very hard for Canadians to get nice folding knives unless we fight them. And there's a fight on the way. I'll put links to that down below in the description as well. I won't be posting this until I'm back in Canada after my trip. Oh, did I cut my finger already? Yes, I did. Somehow I nicked my finger. And I'm not sure how I did that. Just a tiny little nick on the tip of my finger right here. Somehow opening these knives, they are sharp. They are very, very sharp. I can't even feel it. It's just I saw it there. So there you go. Here's these knives, Paladin, Starfighter, and very good looking knives. Of these two, I'm sure I would like the Paladin better, but that's just because I'm so into budget knives. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Thank you very much to my Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. The rest of you guys are very close to the best. Knife guys are always the best. Knife guys and gals. Well, when I say guys, I mean gals. Till next time, remember, always cut towards your chum and not your fingertip. Bye now.